the words, reach for the story, follow the rainbow sun to a shining time station where dreams can come true, waiting there for you.
Well, for those who just saw the trailer, I'm quite surprised. You actually wanted to hear the story. Okay, for those here who didn't saw the trailers, which I really wish you just did, you're probably wondering, what's up? Alright. Well, I'm going to be telling you a story about trains, and where they were far apart, but two engines here were able to bring them together. And this is how it all started. But let's go back in time, to the time of the 1940s to the 1950s. The full bucket line. This is the home of one of the steam engines and our main character, Luke Golden State. Now, Luke Golden State works for the Southern Pacific Railroad, pulling one of their famous daylight cars to Los Angeles. And he's a really nice guy, of course. Oh, and here comes another main character, Steven Oots, or Oots for short. Now he works for the Union Pacific line. Now you must know here that since that Oots is part of the Union Pacific and Luke is part of the Southern Pacific, they don't really get along. They're enemies, rivals, of course. But that was all gonna change. And this is how it all began. One day, Luke was at Simonville getting ready to take the train to Fort Fairfax. But Oots was putzing around with a freight train. "Hurry up, you old slowpoke," said Luke angrily. "I gotta get to Fort Fairfax." "I don't need to listen to you," said Oots. He was really upset. "Why should I listen to a Southern Pacific anyways?" said Luke angrily. "You know what? You big fat boys are just pain in the butt sometimes." "We don't have butts," said Oots angrily. And off he went. "Stupid thing," said Luke. And then he puffed away with the daylight. Meanwhile, at Lakehurst Yard, Oots puffed in with the hopper train, uncoupled to it, and then went off to assign the rest. But not for long. He had another job to do. He needed to take a big boxcar train to Fort Fairfax, but little did he know that he had brake problems. The brakes here are never always good when he tries to stop. While he was waiting on the siding to head out, his brakes were loose and his wheels started to turn. He started to move faster and faster. He tried to whistle, but he couldn't. He just kept rolling down the line. "Help! Help!" said Oots frightfully. "I can't stop! I can't stop!" At Simonville, Luke was resting when he heard about the news. Serves him right! But then he realized. He thought about what happened here if he crashed. Luke didn't feel that comfortable. Then all of a sudden, he said to himself, "I gotta help him." He talked to his driver and fireman about what he was planning. They agreed and they sped off. "Gotta save Oots, gotta save Oots," he panted. At last, he got on the main line, and just right behind him was Oots. "Are you ready there, Luke?" said his driver. "Yeah, I'm ready." His driver put on the brakes slowly and steadily. Oots was coming at him closer and closer. Then, said Luke. Fireman here climbed over to Oots' cab and took control. And at last, the entire train was under control. They then arrived at Fort Fairfax safely. Luke was then uncoupled to the train and headed back to Simonville. Oots didn't say anything. Later that day, Luke was resting in the yard when Oots came in. "Hey, Luke, I just want to say something. Thanks." You really saved my tender. No problem there, Oots. Why did you do it? We're enemies. I just thought. I mean, look, maybe we're from different railroads, but we're steam engines. We're the same thing. Yeah, I guess you're right. And so, Luke and Oots were friends. They usually stop by at Simonville to talk to each other. But the engines from both Union Pacific and Southern Pacific got mad about me. But that's another story.